sending
Yeah,
it out.
I mean,
you know,
I fired
to
4
the
people in
CEO.
15 years.
Ooh, wait a minute.
And then,
Are you talking about that?
All right.
Yeah, I can't talk
Are
about employee
live,
issues
so
until
we're
the
gonna
meeting.
get started here. Welcome to the City Council Oversight Committee meeting of Thursday, January 11th, 2024. We have 2 items on our agenda this afternoon. So we're gonna start with item number 1, which is the emergency shelter update. So I will recognize April Dozier to give us our update.
So as far as a friend's house shelter goes, I don't have anything new and exciting to report there. We're staying at capacity every single night, which, as a reminder, was increased by the fire marshal's office to 52 beds. So we're staying at 52 beds every night. With the cold weather coming in, we met on Monday and have made a determination that because of the fire marshal's ruling, we are not going to be able to use that space as an overflow or to get people in with this winter coming up. So we'll just be at our 52 beds as this next couple of weeks comes through with the weather. But just briefly, I'll talk to you about what we are doing for winter preparations so that you guys are aware. The Norman Caravans and Food and Shelter have been working together to identify every person that's out there. We have a handful of people that said they want to stay at their campsite because they're afraid if they leave it, they might not have things when they get back. It's an understandable worry. So they're going to hunker down. As of the end of the day today, we'll have close to 60 people in motel rooms, spread among a couple of locations. And then those are mainly people who have children and people who have animals, because neither Friends House nor Salvation Army can accept animals. And our dining room, which will be open starting today for 24 hours until further notice, cannot have animals in it as well because we're a health department certified commercial restaurant. So, so that space will also be available. In years past, we've had as many as 75 people inside at night in the dining room at 201 Reed. So we know we can have at least that many. We've staffed up to multiple overnight monitors there, so it'll be a safe place, a warm place. We'll have, restrooms and such. So anybody that needs to get inside can go there or try to get into one of the other shelters.
Any questions?
I was just going to highlight, so it looks like last month we helped 6 people get back to the city which their family lives. Obviously that process is connecting with that family, making sure there's a safe place to land. I saw that we helped 12 guests get their ID, birth certificate, and or social security card. And then you've had 4 guests move into permanent housing here in Norman, or a housing program offered by Food and Shelter. Does that mean like one of the tiny homes?
That one person, that's what it meant. The other 3 moved into permanent housing and somewhere else in the community that they'll pay their rent on their own.
Oh, so they're paying their, it's not even Section 8, it's
Right.
like
Yeah,
actual
these
housing.
Yeah, we help them with their deposit and their first month's rent to get them moved in, and then they have the resources to be able to support themselves afterwards.
And you call those people 6 months to a year after their house?
We maintain contact with them, for 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
And then, were there any particular trends that stood out to you this past? I mean, like I've been coming to visit for that little project, and I did notice a lot of people with disabilities and wheelchairs. I saw folks switching beds so that people who use wheelchairs could have a bunk and not have to struggle to get into a 4-bed.
Yeah.
But
On
I
both
don't
the
know if
men's,
that's-
on both the men's side and the women's side, the last probably 3 months, we've seen a trend toward people with disabilities and older people, like 50 and older, and they just have a lot more acute needs, and being outside would be very dangerous for those folks.
And then one of the other stories I heard when I was in there and I thought was interesting was a kid. I say kid, he's like 18 to 24 because I think that's the age range you need to be for Sisu. But he let me know that he was actually trying to get to OKC and was just waiting to hear if Sisu had any availability, which didn't mean exactly getting into interim housing, but that would be the next step. And it seemed like that was a little easier for him and his age range to manage. And not ideally in OKC because he was from Norman, but he identified that. So I just thought it was interesting that some people are not finding the resources they need here and are looking at other options. And when I was talking to him about that, I was really thinking about the lack of interim housing and Section 8 housing that we have to help people get housed more quickly than we're seeing. And I was a little shocked to hear that a woman from this summer who had spoke at planning, I thought she had momentum to, she seemed to be making gains, and that also she is waiting for housing and is stuck. So,
Yeah, that lack of Section 8 housing and truly affordable housing, because affordable is relative, I think. What's affordable to one person is not affordable to others. We have a number of our guests who are living on Social Security disability income, which ranges anywhere from $870 to $1,000 a month, dependent. And that's just not enough money to rent a place in Norman and also thrive and also live stably. So yeah, we're really struggling right now to find truly affordable housing, and then Section 8 housing obviously is just something you guys have talked about a lot. As far as the young people go, like we do have to look creatively and sometimes outside of Norman to help people find what their path is. Sometimes it's things like Sisu, what you're talking about when we have young people, because we do have Bridges here in Norman, which is a wonderful program, but they are, like all of us, saturated at capacity nearly every day, every month. So we do have to look creatively, and in the way that we would partner with Sisu and say we have somebody that could be a good fit for your program, they might do the same thing for us. And I know that seems like a negative thing. I mean, honestly, we're all working together to really help people find the best path for them.
well, I guess that kind of fits with the home-based study and action plan though, because they said, was it 7 was effective communication between our limited resources?
Right.
So I assume
Yeah.
that fits in that model.
Yeah, we have to all work together, that's for sure.
All right, thank you.
Next month, would it be possible to get a yearly report
Sure.
for 2023, like a review?
Sure.
Same format, I would say, just with the yearly.
Just a full year,
Yeah.
sure.
And then could we see how many guests would be considered disabled in some form, whatever, physically, or have maybe mental health issues? And then last we saw, somewhere around 25% were working, have jobs and go to work every day.
Or have some level of income, yeah.
Can't afford anywhere.
Right.
Is that probably still about the
I
same?
would say so, yeah. Yeah, and that could be earned income, or it could be, benefits, like Social Security benefits.
Okay. Any notable issues at the shelter over December holiday season?
No, I mean, it's just was kind of a standard month for us, yeah. We had a really good Christmas. A food truck that does smoked meats came and cooked food for everybody on Christmas night, and we had mountains of gifts, and it was really special.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions for April? Okay, Lance, do you want to give us an update on the building and what you're working on?
Okay. I printed a sheet off. It's not the updated one, but it still kind of gives the basic layout of the building. I did a few there. You can shuffle around here if I can make my fingers work. I've gathered costs, and I didn't want to bring in a bunch of paperwork, so what I did was I just condensed it down. You round it up to kind of make it an even number. Kind of let you know where we're at. And one more. That's the last. Did make some calls on some of my big items. The sprinkler system, of course, is a $49,000 item. His price is still good from when I got it. And the asbestos removal is also state contract. That price is another one that's one of my bigger ones by itself. He didn't think there was any increase, and it stayed at the $60,000 for the removal of it. This is just kind of a basic, build out as the plan shows. And like I said, I kind of broke it down. You can kind of look through everything. We're looking at a $343,000, build up for that. 16,000 of that we've already used. We went to the council and asked for some money. The heat and air system went out in that far building, so we went ahead and were able to get that and put that on, so that 16,000 comes back out. Leaves us a $327,000 to finish that building out. I kind of left everything a little bit on the high side. I'm in talks with OG&E. They're going to provide some of the lights. We don't qualify for the discount, but they think they can give us some of the interior lights and also maybe match the price, even though that area doesn't qualify for the discounts. But talking to a few places, trying to get some breaks on some things. But everybody I've talked to so far, like I said, it was short notice today. Everybody's pretty good with their prices. This plan, if it's raised to, we can safely house 100 people within the shelter. That's our max we can get to. The shelter will show us putting our accesses over on that east side, men and women separate. Get them off Main Street and out of the street where it could be dangerous. Get them over that parking lot side. We'll be able to intake them inside and the women's side. There will be separate intake rooms. So once they enter the men or women's side, they can go directly to an intake if they need to get their information or work with them, whatever. And it's a nice private area. The observation area is an open area. It can be monitored for the men and the women. Separation. New bathrooms, meeting ADA going into the building. Basically an open design, but it will have this one doesn't show up, but 2 common spaces, one on the men, one on the women. A common space area that can be utilized unless the area fills up with beds later on or something. But it's pretty good design. I've got some good subs that have given us good numbers on it, and if there's something that the committee has concessions on, and we want to move budget appropriations from that 718 Porter over to capital projects for 109. I'm ready on my side whenever you guys let me know what to do.
Okay, thoughts?
I'm ready. But also I've noticed that, so the 68 number is the number of beds on the women's side and 78 is the number of beds.
That was one of our Christine. I didn't have the new one. We can't email files that big, so I couldn't run over and get the updated drawing. But the actual beds would be 160-40 basically on our split. Pretty close to that area. Isn't that what we kind of came up with?
Correct, yeah. Some of those beds come out to create like a common space where we can do groups and activities. So there'll be some round tables and chairs where people could eat, watch TV. So that was to get us really to a more manageable number.
Okay, and I like the layout because, this isn't forever. We're actively looking for a permanent location, and I see possibility in the future for this building to be used in a different way.
It's
too.
almost a blank slate, yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing, once we go through the asbestos removal, that gives all those buildings a clean slate, so we won't ever have to retest the buildings. Fire sprinkler system will go in, and that's accessible, or can be moved on to the next 2 buildings easily. So.
Yeah, phased in. All right.
Councilmember Grant, you're saying even with an investment to completely renovate 109 and 113 for 327, 343, are we
Yeah.
still looking to buy a building for a permanent location? That wouldn't be the new permanent location?
Not permanent. This is, as far as I understand, still just a temporary until we find a suitable place.
Yeah, and the actual homeless shelter, last I was hearing, is a $5 million range for land and building on it. So, and this actually isn't the whole 500,000 appropriation we made when we were selling 718, which when we were exploring that, blew the budget and was not a good use. Even though we own that building and plan to sell it, was not a good use to renovate it like that.
I think these funds will actually be not from the sale of 718, but from the renovation budget for 718.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we'll
Yeah,
also
just to
get
give you
proceeds
kind of a
from-
background, we've been discussing
A permanent building
since I've been on
inception-
council. It's
since the
been,
inception of this stuff.
yes, I mean, this is several locations in over the last several years, because nothing has been a great fit, and we're kind of piecemealing this together to make sure that we do have a place to get people off of the streets and have a safe place to stay that is, a shelter and is warm and they have a bed. They're protected, but we've been searching and we continue to search and are having active conversations about new locations that would potentially house the permanent location where we're going to have like a 24-hour shelter. This is only at night.
Right. So it'll be more expanded services.
Exactly,
Okay.
services, and we're looking to have, at that location, have like kennels and storage areas and showers, and kind of like the full scope of what we would need for shelter. And I think you were gonna say too, that the idea too for that type of expenditure would potentially and probably go out to a vote of the people to get that $5 million or whatever it comes up to be.
Has there been any grounds made as far as finding a piece of land or property that, or when I say grounds, I mean
We've had
meeting
discussions.
resistance?
We've we've had discussions in executive session, so we can't
Oh,
talk about acquisition of property in open session. But yes, we're moving towards having those discussions, and we can bring you up to speed, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
And also, when you heard me saying too about like seeing the future and how this might be used otherwise,
With
like
this property, I was gonna ask, how will we use that once?
so some of the things, like it's worth it to us to like fix the building and have something that's of actual value
Right.
and not deteriorating inside as some parts are. But also, engaged learning was something Councilmember Peacock was interested in bringing, and honestly, I would love to see it here because a long-term goal of a subcommittee I served on called the Inclusive Community Subcommittee imagined like I wouldn't call it daycare, but like an option for parents to have their kids in an enrichment activity while they were involved at city council, like in a committee or doing one of our full council meetings. And honestly, like, I think at Councilmember Holman, I hope I'm not talking over the point that you're gonna make, but I know that Councilmember Holman also asked that when Couch gets renovated, that we don't have offices. And
Right.
so that looked like a good location to have an office for people,
To come and talk to?
City
Yeah.
council.
Council.
have a
Yeah,
place to
that's-
work.
yes.
Yeah, that's
a good
not
idea
that
as well.
break room, so. So that's kind of that, and I'll hand it off to Steve.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, just adding on to that too, this location was a last resort. There is no other option that we can find anywhere in the whole city. This is the only space that the city owned that we could do it. And we were using it, I think line maintenance.
Storage.
Using it for storage. So it was kind of a storage for boxes or a place for people to sleep at night.
People to sleep is the best.
And starting out as an overnight winter shelter, but discovering that it was something that was needed year-round, basically. There was a demand for that every night of the year. But we don't think it's an ideal location for it in the middle of the business district. It's not really near other services as far as food and shelter. I mean, it's within walking distance, but it's a little bit. And the health department and all the stuff that's on Griffin. And so, yeah, it's always been kind of definitely a temporary spot, just as it's a last resort. We have no other option. But with the goal of a more comprehensive, long-term solution to that with the features that the council members were mentioning. So wraparound services and ideally helping get people out of there. They need to stay there and we help them get out of that situation. So, and then other uses for the buildings, as Councilmember Grant mentioned, the Couch building maybe being a good spot to have some city offices. And then the engaged learning is a really good idea that we've talked about for a little while. Would these buildings, if somebody wanted to add on to them, would that be possible? Could someone add a second floor to them? Would you have to tear it down? Or, I know it would take a significant investment to do that type of thing, but
I'm sure.
are they usable?
They're usable now. The buildings themselves are good and they are sound. I'm sure if somebody was gonna add and go up, it would be an engineering, putting steel inside the brick walls and then going up and not using the building itself for support. But the buildings are sound. They're they're old and, they need some work, but they're not bad buildings, so they'll be something the city can use or sell later on for the good of the people. They're not bad buildings, they're just a little run down.
TLC.
Yeah, haven't been, really taken care of, been used for storage and automotive stuff. And so, that was really part of my question, was just, what is, in your opinion, the reusability of these if we do make this investment into this building for now, and then when we're done using it for this purpose, either being able to sell it to someone that does want to do something with it, or the city being able to do something with it.
And one of the biggest things, we want to realize, the building has asbestos. We couldn't sell it anyway until we removed the asbestos. So, and like we've checked all those other buildings. Once this one's clear, that whole area right there has a clear, and then they'll have to be tested again. We have that receipt forever. So it's a positive thing in that aspect.
Okay, thanks.
So it sounds like we're ready to move this forward to, I would say, the full council. So it'd have to hit an agenda, but if we need a study session, I'm thinking likely.
We could do a study session, or if you guys think that there's support for it, we could put it on the next council agenda for appropriation of the funding.
I mean, I'd like to see it move to the agenda, and then if we need to have further discussion, then we can do that prior to.
I also agree.
Okay. Thank you.
See you, Lance.
All right.
See you later.
We are going to move to item number 2, which is a discussion regarding sobering centers, and we have Major Shattuck here to walk us through a presentation. And
All right. So this is a pretty quick presentation, but hopefully I'll get you the information that you're looking for. If I don't have it today, I will get it for you quickly. Okay, so real quick, what are sobering centers? And basically, sobering centers are designed to provide a safe environment for people who are under the influence of intoxicants to recover and get well from being under the influence, right? So the goals of these facilities, they include providing care for homeless, alcohol-dependent people and to provide them with improved health outcomes. It also helps to decrease the number of unneeded emergency room visits, right? And I don't know about Norman as much, but in the bigger cities, the research shows that this takes up quite a bit of the evening and nighttime hours of emergency room visits. So these are designed to help reduce the types of visits, both for the emergency department and for ambulance runs. And the third thing is it helps create a law enforcement diversion alternative to booking individuals in for public intoxication, right? So that does two things really for the police side of it. One is it avoids the criminal justice system for the individual. But the second thing and the benefit for the police normally is that the booking process is much quicker. The jail process booking normally takes about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how staffing is at the jail. Usually these take about 10 minutes. So they're very quick handoffs, and they're easy for the police to use. So I looked at 2 different models. I think there's only 2 in the state. You guys may know more about this than I do, but I only found 2 in the state of Oklahoma that have actually offering sobering centers. The first one is Oklahoma City, and that's called the PIA, the Public Inebriate Alternative. And this is operated by First Step, and the bigger part of First Step is they do like addiction, right? They address addiction, but this specific building is only for a detox center. So they provide a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week alternative to arrest for people who come in contact with the Oklahoma City Police Department. These individuals are not under arrest and they're not charged with any other crime. They have to voluntarily accept to be admitted to the PIA program. So if the officer gives them the opportunity to go to detox instead of going to jail, they have to agree to that, right? Normally the length of stay is about 10 hours. And during the time that they are at the PIA, they have access to get something to eat, they can sleep, they can take a shower, sometimes they get their clothes washed, and they can get referred to other services such as detox or stuff like that, and they get a ride home. So about 2,500 people a year are admitted to this facility. And really what they tout as the benefits of the program is it really reduces costs, right? So the individual arrested doesn't have to pay for the criminal justice system. the city's not paying to have them incarcerated. It saves a bunch of time over for the officers while they're trying to book people in, and the cost is about $350,000 per year. That's what it costs the city of Oklahoma City for their partnership with First Step.
So there's, I mean, based on the two numbers, they're saving roughly $100,000
Yep.
to do this program. So it does cost, but
Right.
the cost to not have it would be higher.
Correct.
Okay.
And you're not putting costs on people that aren't going to pay it anyway, right? So the court fees aren't there, things like that. Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Grant.
I'm curious about the transport piece of it. So that's
Right.
also in the cost for the 350,000 per year.
So they're transported by the police department, so I don't know that there's any additional cost on there, but they're normally taken to the detox center by the officer that's talking to them on the call.
And then when they're released and they get a ride home.
Yes, ma'am. I see what you're saying now. Yes, that's part of the cost.
Okay. And the police do the transport home?
I don't believe so. I think they call a taxi or they call it a different
Or
service,
Lyft
but
or
not the
something.
police, yes.
So police in and then a different service on the way.
Yes.
And do you
Yeah.
know if they're verifying like where they're going and that it's actually to a good place?
I don't know that now.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Coleman.
Just follow up on that. Tulsa, when I think they required them, they couldn't just walk out and just wander off. They had to have either someone had to come get them, or they put them in a taxi and sent them off, but they couldn't just walk
Send the
out.
walkway from the center.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Tulsa in a minute.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thanks.
All right, so the second model I looked at was the model up in Tulsa, and I actually kind of like this model a little bit better. This is called the Grand Addiction Recovery Center, and they have approximately 700 to 900 admissions per year, so they're not using it quite as much as Oklahoma City does. They're not quite as big, but so I was able to talk to the director. His name is Scott Whitefield. He was actually very helpful, and so during our conversation, I asked him, how many percentage of your folks are homeless? And he said about 54% of our people are homeless. So the benefits of his program, which I really liked, I'll get those in a second, is that they are co-located with both a drug and alcohol treatment center and a mental health crisis unit. To me, that's a big deal. So that allows for not just recovery from intoxication, but actual fixing the issue that underlies that intoxication, right? So to me, that was a big selling point for this type of model. He says that about 15 to 18% of individuals that enter into the substance abuse programs from the sobering center, right? So that's a pretty good number. I thought that was actually a really good number. The other thing that I thought was really interesting and neat about his program is that they operate a 16-person street outreach team. This program is 24/7, and he was telling me that he knows where all of the people are. So he knows where all of the people where they stay at. He knows the locations where they're at. So that's very helpful for him to go find people, to help them get into things like that. I thought that was pretty fascinating. I didn't have any idea they did that. But they're able to get about 39 people off the street every month and out of homelessness, right? So now he said a lot of those people they'll go back to homelessness because that's kind of part of the process, but I thought that was a pretty good number.
Yeah.
That was good. And the city of Tulsa pays about $250,000 per year for the service. I think there's other ways that that's paid for since it's part of a bigger group. And I think they're getting some grants for some of their help. I know he told me the street outreach part was grant funded, so I think that's how they're paying for it. Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
So I have visited this one before with Todd Gibson when he was still the sheriff. We went on a field trip up there and toured this facility, and they did mention to us that the connection to the mental health and drug and alcohol treatment center was like a primary factor in its success and ability to operate. So they felt that was really necessary if we were going to do that here, that we think about that. And then they mentioned to us that the funding from the city standpoint was calculated based off of, as he mentioned, the savings in time for officers. So basically, they calculated how much time officers were spending per year booking someone into the county jail, and then they calculated the time it took officers to book someone into sobering center, and they came up with a number that equaled, and applied that savings to the funding the operation of at least the city's portion of the service. Was we're saving $250,000 a year by our officers not waiting around at the county jail, and so we're that was something they emphasized to us as how that they were funding it from their side, and then additional funding sources, I think, as well, grants and other nonprofits may be involved as well. But those were the 2 points they really emphasized to us, was it being connected to those other services, and having the street outreach team, and then using the savings from, again, the officers' time to calculate how much they could put forward towards it. So to me, that, $250,000 a year would seem a low cost for our city this size to have something like that. And, we're roughly 4 times smaller than Tulsa, so maybe ours wouldn't even need to be that much. So, I think I'm very interested in pursuing this further. I know you got some more info on that. But I was impressed with this facility for sure when I saw it. And again, the part where people weren't leaving with a criminal record, if they agreed to stay there for the 8 or 10 hours that it was. And officers being able to drop someone off, they know they're going to be taken care of, and then they can get back out on the street on patrol. So that was another just thing that they talked about, was not only freeing up time for officers booking someone, but also they're able to get back out on the street and be there, be able to respond to calls when needed. So yeah, I would agree. This was the one. I haven't toured the one in Oklahoma City, but I was impressed by this one when I saw it.
Councilmember Grant?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards this one also because we've been having discussions about the Red Rock Urgent Care, and even before we knew that they were the ones awarded the RFP, earlier discussions envisioned urgent crisis unit with a sobering center, which clearly makes a lot of sense. And I also wonder if that's part of the shared cost on that. I mean, for us, we wouldn't be operating or doing anything inside the urgent care part, but that would make it less to build onto that and work with those services. I was also going to mention too, 54% of participants are homeless, but I see a benefit for people. Like, one of the situations floated by me was, imagine a girls' night and they go out drinking, and do you want to really threaten somebody's employment status with like a DUI when they could go sleep it off? So for people who are not homeless, this would actually be helpful. And I think for our student population and also their parents, that this would be much preferred to spending a night at Cleveland County Detention
100%.
Center.
100%. We have kids who get too intoxicated on campus corner and they can't find their way home, and we don't know where they
live.
go or anything like that. That's a perfect place to send them. Yeah, for sure.
I have a comment about what you were saying about Red Rock. City Manager Pyle and I had this conversation last week in kind of our regular meeting, and in anticipation of having this discussion, I said, would Red Rock come? Is that part of their contract as they, are becoming the CCBHC for Cleveland County, and I think it's McLean County, and he got in contact with them and said, no, a sobering center is not part of the contract for their build out. So it would still be something that the city/county would need to partner and to kind of get with them. But I think in our further discussions about, a permanent location for a homeless shelter with wraparound services, it seems like there's a large population that this is for homeless. So like having it in conjunction with what Red Rock is doing and what we plan to do with our 24-hour shelter in the future. I think that like having those co-locate, like you're saying here that they do in Tulsa, is really important. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation now before Red Rock even has land and before they know what their final build out is going to look, because we can kind of maybe adapt what that partnership looks like between us and the county. And then just to clarify too, Grand is the CCBHC in Tulsa.
Yes, I believe
So
that's
they're
correct,
doing
yes.
this as a part of their,
I believe that's correct.
CCBHC's
yes. 'Cause
kind of work.
They're pretty big. That's
Yeah,
a pretty
they're
big
huge.
organization, yeah.
yeah, okay.
And I thought the same as you. Red Rock would be a natural partner for us to work with us on. I had trouble getting a hold of those folks, but I actually did. The lady that I did talk to eventually said that she didn't know of the plans. The same thing that you had heard. That I haven't heard that we're going to do a sobering center yet. So
Yeah.
that would be something to explore with them.
So
for
I
sure.
think maybe if we can get in with them and start having that discussion, and I've already, like I said, talked to the city manager, and now we're talking about it here, that as these conversations further, like, I would hope that as they do their build out for their facility, that, you know, we can kind of tack something on in that way. And I like this model where we're having the treatment and mental health, and because they're going to have a mental health crisis unit, and they're going to serve, they said, predominantly homeless, students, low income, those types of folks, and it seems like that would be a great fit. Councilmember Holman?
Is it something the department could calculate? How much time in 2023 did our officers spend booking someone into Cleveland County Jail?
we could probably
I guess
like
maybe from the
ballpark
time
it.
they arrived to the time they left, or something like that.
It's possible. I don't know if we can go back to get the numbers. We could ballpark it based off how many arrests we've made and things like that.
Yeah,
We could count our time that way. So that was something I can look for you if you'd like.
yeah, that'd be helpful to know how many hours over
We're spending
a
at the
year
jail
that-
a lot.
adds up to.
A
Yeah,
lot.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Ready.
Okay, so real quick, I got some Norman PD statistics for you. So in 2023, we made approximately 634 arrests for public intoxication. That's arrests of all types. I think that includes juveniles also. Also, the interesting part for me was when I was doing my research. I did some academic research, and I found that a lot of places they differentiated between like people who were there one time and people who were multiple users, right? And so I kind of looked at that for Norman also. I wanted to kind of see how that looked for us. And I don't know if you guys can read those or not, but so 56 people in 2023 were arrested more than one time for public intoxication. And we had 427 that were just arrested once. So if it's probably hard to see. If you look at the one on the left or on the one on the right, the number 2 person, those are people that we just gave numbers. The number 2 person says that he's not homeless, but he actually is. So he uses his dad's address, but he's actually homeless. So most of our people in the top 10 don't have anywhere to stay. And if you look, 3 people were at least 14 times in 2023 were arrested. That's quite a bit. I mean, that's a lot of time. That's showing that we have a few people that really need help with issues, right? And so I thought that would be interesting for you guys to see just what we're looking at. 2020 and 2021 were pretty low. We didn't go back any farther. I wish we would have went to 2019 to see how that year looked. But as you can see, since then we've constantly went up every year.
I mean, probably because less bars
Yes.
were open in 2020
Yes.
and 2021, and
Right, I was
people were
gonna
doing
say-
that in the
Yeah.
comfort of their home, outside of people that didn't have a safe place to stay over time. Yeah, Councilmember Grant. Oh, Shakira, do you want to go? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I can wait.
I was gonna ask, do you believe the numbers are impacted by, anyway, by COVID?
Oh,
As far as,
absolutely, I do.
Mental health rising, mental health issues rising during that time, and then, it looks like for one person at the top, they went 9, 15, 10, so it was more of an escalation, went down and then escalated again, for other members of other studies. Does it show that same kind of, I guess, growth, where from 2020 to 2023, you see this increase of intoxication?
I don't. I would say anecdotally, yes. I don't have the numbers to back that up, but I would say yes. 2020 and 2020 were very rough on people on mental health and stuff like that. Absolutely, yes.
I was curious about the jail stay on average. I'm guessing it's more than 10 hours and we're paying maybe at least 1 day's wages or 1 day's, what is the word I'm
Stay,
looking for? Yeah, and that's what, like at $60-ish a day?
I don't
I
know.
think that's right, somewhere between 50 and 60.
I think when I was asking about like how much we spend total with Cleveland County Detention Center for people yearly, it was in the $250,000 to $300,000 range. But anyways, back to the how long?
Person per day.
Yeah, how long do they stay on a public intox arrest? Or I guess two other charges might factor into it.
They do. They could.
Um,
So I think just public intox by itself, if you're able to pay your fines and get out, you're probably staying 8 to 10 hours. So if you get arrested at 2 o'clock in the morning on Campus Corner, you're probably getting out at probably 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning.
And let's say you don't have that money, because we do know there's some homeless folks. I've
Right.
probably had to like scrape together the money to even get drunk. How long does it take them?
Well, you might. be able to-
We have a judge Monday through Friday who will do arraignments over the computer with the jail, and so we try and get those folks out as fast as we can. If they're homeless, there's not much sense in setting a bond. They're not going to be able to pay it, and so often it's an OR bond, which allows them to leave on their own recognizance.
But that could vary from like a couple days to a few more days, or
Yeah, I mean, I think typically we're taking care of it the next business day.
okay.
Yeah. If that's the only charge. The other
Yeah.
charges, they may be different, but.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Councilmember Horn?
What's the Norman Police Department criteria for arresting someone for public intox? And just someone who's doing what we want them to do. If they are at the bar, we want them to not drive, right? So we want them to walk home, probably. Is it someone's walking home and they're drunk, or they are doing something that's some kind of a disturbance, or an officer feels like they might get injured or something like that?
So as a generic guidelines, right? Generic. If we find people that can't take care of themselves, like if they don't know where their house is at, or they're by themselves, or something like that, then if we can't find any other alternative or anywhere to take those folks, sometimes we'll arrest them for safety, right? We have to have somewhere to put those people where we know they're going to be safe. The second one, normally just being intoxicated by itself, that's not. I mean, we have a lot of stuff to do, and that's not one we want to get caught doing. But if you're causing issues, if you're causing problems on Campus Corner, if you're fighting, or if you're being loud and obnoxious, things like that that are going to draw attention to you, then that's probably another case when you might get arrested. Just being drunk in public and not causing problems probably will not get you arrested.
College guys, drunk and walking home and trips over a part of the sidewalk and stumbles, that's not necessarily going to get them arrested for
No, no,
PI.
no.
So, okay, thanks.
So, would you say that most people that are arrested for public intox, at least right now, are catching other charges because it's like they're fighting or they're doing other things that would warrant you to notice?
So it'll warrant us noticing them. We don't normally stack charges, so like if we can go with one charge, and a lot of times we'll just do that charge.
So you'll do the one that's more excessive. Okay. Councilmember Grant?
And then just thoughts around our drinking culture. So I would say like Norman Music Fest, game days, typically see more arrests for public intox.
They do, only because there's a lot of people out in public. We especially like on game days and things like that, we try not to arrest people because we only have a certain amount of officers that are working, and so if we take that person and then they have to take that one person, try to get through Norman traffic and then up to the jail and back. Well, they can't take emergency calls, right? So we try to stay as available as we can for, like if someone gets hit by the train or, those things that happen on game days. And we want to have all the people we can available for those. So we try not to.
But it happens.
It does. It does. Absolutely does.
So you were talking about the difference in intake times. So you said like in Oklahoma City it was like 10 minutes
Oh, yeah.
at a sobering center. What's the difference whenever you have to what's the amount of time when you take them up to the jail? Like how long does that typically take an officer?
It's probably at least an hour.
Okay. So significantly
Significant
reduces.
time. Absolutely.
So if you were to do the data on that and you said you would take, sorry,
You're good.
take the arrests and then average it out for maybe an hour, is an average time? It's probably a lot of time.
Lots of time.
Yeah, I mean, an hour for 634
Right, and that's just
individual
for-
arrests and taken, and booked, that's 634 hours of police time, just in booking someone. Yeah.
Booking someone for alcohol or intoxication, not other crimes. So that's,
Correct.
You're gonna, that's
Yeah.
a lot of time.
Yeah.
That's just the Norman, like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
right.
on Oklahoma City, 2,500 hours, that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
Nationwide, how much law enforcement spends waiting in the jail to book somebody.
Are we good?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so my literature review, this kind of showed some, like some trends that I would find that the sobering centers they come across. Most of the time, it's males that get put into the sobering centers. A lot of the times that they are homeless. A lot of them have a history of alcohol dependency and abuse. And this is something that I didn't think about until I did the research, is that a lot of them have other health issues, right? And not just, mental health issues, but also like physical issues. I mean, they, from years of alcohol abuse, they have, liver issues and hypertension and heart disease and other things that are affecting their behavior. And then sometimes they also have other drug use, which it wasn't as high as I thought that it might be. Okay, so looking at the data that I looked at, these are kind of some things that I thought would be good for a sobering center if we were going to do one here. And the first one is that we should design it to treat a root cause of homelessness, which is alcohol addiction, right? To me, that's probably, and this is anecdotally, I'm just speaking for myself, I think this is our biggest driver of homelessness is alcoholism. I think drugs play a part and mental health plays a part also, but alcoholism I think is probably our biggest driver of that. I would advocate for 24/7 operation. I also would like to have a medical staff on site, someone that can actually take care of people, not just watch them, but actually take care of them and know when they're in crisis or something like that. I would like to see a multiple admission method, so not just the police can use this, but they can be brought in by other people when they're in a state of intoxication. And I think that it should be co-located with other services such as mental health care and some detox and addiction services.
Councilmember Grant.
I can't remember if we discussed it in a previous committee. I think we did. But wasn't there a breakdown of arrests, alcohol abuse, or public intox or things related to alcoholism versus drugs?
So I looked for that, and my numbers guy, the arrest for like drug intoxication was really low. Most of the time, it was almost always alcohol intoxication.
Okay. And then the other part with being co-located with other services, I'm curious about the detox part of it because, it's a little tricky recognizing it in time. When we're talking about people who have experience, if somebody's overdosing, they're not staying there, they're getting moved along.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. I think that's why I would want medical staff there just to notice, to be paying attention to stuff like that, taking blood pressure and things like that at different times during the nighttime to make sure everybody's doing okay.
Yeah, well, and time is of the essence in
Absolutely.
that case, so.
Yep.
Shakira.
I see you're presenting this, so I'm asking, would this facility be secured by Norman Police?
So probably not. Like it would be operated by like a third party,
Okay.
so that way we would just be partners with them and bring people who we think needed to be there, but operated by a different party.
So they will be
Contract.
providing that security for that.
Yeah. Councilmember Holman.
How long have you been with the department?
26 years.
So you were probably still in patrol then. We used to have a drunk tank or
We
something
did.
like that.
Yeah.
How similar or not similar was that facility, if you recall, to
So-
what we would be doing
I
now?
was pretty young back then, and so that was located over on mental health grounds, the one that we used. And I knew nothing about it really other than I took people there. But what I will tell you was that it didn't take very long to take them there, right? I could take them there, drop them off, and it didn't take a long time, and it worked. It worked well.
If we were, so I'm assuming Moore does not have a sobering center in Moore city limits.
I
And
thought I know.
I would assume Noble probably doesn't either, or Lexington. So I don't know how the previous version of it was funded, but maybe it was partly county and city, I'm not sure. But it would seem like there'd be an opportunity for, maybe it's located in Norman, I'm not sure, but the Norman PD might not be the only entity that would need to use it. That gets into, if Moore PD did bring somebody to a sobering center in Norman, how do they get back to Moore when they're done with it? But maybe that could be some other avenues of funding as well.
Yeah, I think that goes back to
Partnerships.
the conversation that we continue to have about transportation.
Yeah.
And if these other models have a transportation component built into it, then ideally, like, we would be asking them to take people back to where they came from, or where they're from, or where they live, or, you know, any of those things. And so, like, transportation, I think, would be a key piece in this operation.
It'd be good to know if the one in Tulsa, if Broken Arrow Police or Jinx or whatever other suburbs around Tulsa also use it or not, or if Tulsa County also uses it. Maybe the one in Oklahoma City too, if any other departments in the Oklahoma City Metro use it and help fund any of it too. That could be helpful info.
I know that those were both police-only facilities. I think nobody takes anybody out of it, but I don't think that I don't know this for certain, but I think only Oklahoma City uses that, and I think only Tulsa uses the Grand one. I don't know that for certain, but it would make sense that you would have it open. I know when the one you're talking about was here back in the 90s, that was, like, I worked for the sheriff's department, and we took people there back then, so I think that was a multi-agency place to go.
Yeah, I think we're in a slightly unique situation between Oklahoma City and Tulsa just because of the size of our community, but also, like, we don't take up the whole county. We have lots of other municipalities within our county that, you know, are relatively close to us, and we know that there's a lot of cross population between everything. And so, like, I would see something like this. I think it would be imperative to get other municipalities, the county, on board. And it's a conversation that I think we've been trying to have around homelessness and around, you know, some other services, especially around mental health and transportation and all of those kinds of things. So, like, I think this just plays and continues into that conversation
I think
with all of that.
I don't think Lexington and Noble PD have holding cells, and I don't think Moore does either. So I feel like if they arrest somebody, they've got to take
They're
them
coming
to
to
the
Norman.
Cleveland County Jail in Norman anyway.
Yeah.
So maybe they don't arrest people for public intox in Noble and Lexington.
Well, I guess, like, let's give them their time back too, right? To get back to their communities, because that's that's quite a distance for them,
Well, they might be the only officer.
you know, to travel up. And
On
so,
duty.
Oh, yeah.
but I think
Lexington.
when I talked to Daryl too about, you know, what it could look like with, you know, individuals utilizing and co-locating a 24-hour shelter, right? That is for Cleveland County, not just for Norman. Like, that more PD could, you know, bring people to, or things like that. We could talk about a revenue cost share around, like, if more PD brings someone to the sobering center, then we're keeping track of that, and then there's, you know, we ask them to pay for their percentage of people that are utilizing. So I don't think that that's out of the question. I think it could probably be done pretty easily through data collection. Councilmember Grant.
Yeah, I'm supportive of what Councilmember Schuler and Holman have pointed out with some cost sharing, also the savings for them in their hours. Have you talked to any other local law enforcement agencies or even the sheriff's department about any of this?
I have not yet. I was gonna wait and see how this meeting went and where we were gonna go from here before I went any farther with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you brought some great recommendations, and I think that this is what I would like to see, based on all the, you know, research and data that you've had, and just in all of our conversations about services and what we're planning to do. And I think this would be a real benefit, not only to Norman, but definitely to the county as well. So I'd like it to have all of these things too.
You know, as I look at the benefits of this, and I think the college kids are a good benefit. You know, like I like that part of it, but the part that I really like is that we can maybe help fix some more people that need
Yeah.
to be fixed, right? I mean, to me, that's the passionate reason why I would want to have this, right? I want people to get well, and this might be the first step for them to be able to do that versus, you know, just going to jail and sitting for 8 hours.
Yeah, it's I think a first access point to some of the resources that we have in our community. I'm thinking like, you know, our treatment courts, right? Like that is kind of a last resort. But maybe getting people into the services like, you know, the Virtue Center and things like that are in our community that are providing help for people that are, you know, experiencing addiction and mental health and all of that kind of stuff. So like, I think the key piece that excites me about this is really having that co-located services, and I think is going to be really critical to the success of what you're saying, like actually treating and the root cause of addiction and things like that. So I'm, I guess, hopeful that we can continue having these conversations. It'll probably be wrapped up in some more conversations about the 24-hour shelter and what Red Rock wants to do. And so reaching out to them and having further discussions about, yes, it might not be in the RFP, right, in their contract, but that we really want to see how we can partner with them.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So any other comments or questions? Yeah.
Going forward with it, I mean, I feel it's a fraction of our city budget to, even at the level Tulsa's doing, would be nothing for the benefit I think we would get out of it. So I want to definitely move forward.
Yeah, I don't know that. Yeah, I would like to move forward.
However we can.
I think it's we're not at the stage yet that we can really pull the trigger because I think
Right.
there's some agencies that we need to kind of cultivate relationships with and really think about, location, talk to Red Rock, maybe talk to some of the other municipalities in Wythe County, and then maybe have a further conversation as we kind of start to map that out. Does that seem right?
Yeah, and also as direction from us, like talking to those other agencies about their cost savings and potentially using this, does that give you what you need to do next after this conversation?
Yes, I can definitely talk to both, like Moore PD, Noble, Cleveland County Sheriff, absolutely.
Awesome.
Find out what they might save.
Or gauge their interest in
Yeah.
doing some kind of partnership around
I
it.
feel like Todd's gonna be in, but yeah, it's the chief of police and all that.
Yeah, Chief Gibson. Yeah. Okay, well, I really appreciate the discussion and it was a great presentation. I think we had a lot to discuss and gave us some more ideas of like how to really scope something out. So I appreciate it. Thank
Thank you very
you.
much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, that was our final agenda item and this meeting is adjourned.